Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much, Dr. Sushruth, Dr. Corlin, and the two provosts and the entire UCL administration for this opportunity. As Sushruth rightly said, caste is an issue which is very sensitive, and especially you may end up hurting people because we are part of the system, maybe in different places, but you end up hurting people. So if I end up hurting anybody, please pardon me. That's what. I'm just going to tell about my own experience of how about being a teacher and student from this part of the caste system at the bottom of the caste system, as generally called Dalits. So this presentation, probably I'll just quickly few minutes on what is caste and my experience as a student and some of the revolt I resorted to during my young days, and my experience as a teacher at the Tata Institute, where my colleague Subhada is also from. And what happens when there is an immense amount of prejudice, what impact it makes on the students, and also as a teacher from this background. And what are the research questions that we can think of. And roughly that's what I'm planning. Those who work on South Asia, and especially on the caste issue, must have read so much about what caste and how it is being defined by various people. But I don't look at those definitions, but this is what I have brought it for you, as something which has never been quoted. Again, I don't know whether it's ignorance or willful ignorance, but it has never been quoted. To my understanding, whatever reading I have done so far, this definition is something extremely important and which has never been quoted so far, because this was from writings of Dr. Ambedkar, who also happens to be the so-called Dalits. And immense, he has written, he had his first PhD from Columbia University, second PhD from LSE, but his writings have been kept aloof. Nobody refers, or probably refer, they don't quote. So I want to use this definition, which is a very good context to it. He says, caste in India means an artificial chopping of the population into fixed and definite units, each one prevented from fusing into another through the custom of endogamy. A caste is an enclosed class. That classes have become caste through imitation and excommunications. And they're very short. They are another quick definition. What caste does to individual, that's what he says. The gradation of caste in India, founded as it is in theology, forms an ascending scale of reverence and a descending scale of contempt. The effects of this gradation is to create in the minds of the lower order a preference for the members of the higher, and in the minds of the higher order a repulsion for the members of the lower. This definition of what caste does has never been quoted, so I thought this is very important for you to say. So in essence, what caste does and politics behind caste, I would say casteism is a social construct of a wicked mind aimed at ensuring comfort for a minority at the cost of even the basic human rights of over 70% of the Hindu population within court. So it is a political ploy rather than saying as part of the religion, so on and so forth. And because of a shortage of time, I am just rushing through these things. But such an institution has been glorified by leading leaders, even Mahatma Gandhi. He says caste system is a natural order of the society, and every Hindu must follow the hereditary profession. So there is a hereditary profession based on caste. You should not give up that. That's what his ultimate positions. And prohibition of intermarriage between people of different varnas was necessary for a rapid evolution of soul. So the essence of caste is endogamy. That means you have to marry only within your own caste. You should not marry outside caste. And this essence of caste has something to do with the gender, something to do with the control over women. And if there's a time permits, I will come into that. He further says, I am one of those who do not consider caste to be a harmful institution. In its origin, caste was a wholesome custom and promoted national well-being. In my opinion, the idea that interdining and intermarrying is necessary for national growth is a superstition borrowed from the West. So Ambedkar is saying that interdining and intermarriage is necessary for people to come together as one group, and Gandhi is saying, no, this is superstition borrowed from the West, so he opposed it vehemently. What I mean is, one born a scavenger must earn his livelihood by being a scavenger, and then does whatever he likes. For a scavenger is as worthy of his hire or as a lawyer or your president. That according to me is Hinduism. So in essence, Mahatma Gandhi, as a well-known leader, patriot, he did not oppose caste, and that became the sole responsibility of I just have one small video for you because it is. Where do I go? This is right. I'll play this. Yeah.
मेरा नाम मधु प्रसाद शर्मा शास्त्री है। मैं स्वामी गणपति जी महाराज का शिष्य हूँ और ये जो तुलसी मानस मंदिर है इसका मैं दीक्षित हूँ और काशी के जो विद्वानों की मंडली है श्री काशी विद्वत परिषद का मैं महामंत्री हूँ।
सॉरी।
उसके बाद शास्त्र को आधार मानने वाला होने के नाते
I'm sorry. This is I don't know why this is.
अपना परिचय देते हैं आपको। मेरा नाम मधु प्रसाद शर्मा शास्त्री है।
Just go right click. No. That is no, not that way. Not that. That doesn't work. Just close this. It worked earlier. Right click.
Play with PLC.
Play with click.
अपना परिचय देते हैं आपको। मेरा नाम मधु प्रसाद शर्मा शास्त्री है।
It was coming.
मैं स्वामी गणपति जी महाराज का शिष्य हूँ और
It was coming.
Maybe it's already open.
ये जो तुलसी मानस मंदिर है इसका मैं दीक्षित हूँ और काशी के जो विद्वानों की मंडली है श्री काशी विद्वत परिषद का मैं महामंत्री हूँ। उसके बाद शास्त्र को आधार मानने वाला होने के नाते
You can listen to this thing. I think what he says is more important.
Let me try one more time, just in case. If we open it.
No, you have to say right click and it was playing. Yeah. No, not this way. You just this right click, and then go to play with click.
अपना परिचय देते हैं आपको।
No, it was coming earlier.
मेरा नाम
You can listen to the audio. I think that's good enough.
Okay.
No, wait a minute. We can just make sure you have it.
It was working. Yeah.
Which one did you play?
All. Yeah, this is okay. You play this. Yeah.
I can open one by one.
Okay, we'll play one by one. Okay, just play. Just say yes. Okay.
अपना परिचय देते हैं आपको। मेरा नाम मधु प्रसाद शर्मा शास्त्री है। मैं स्वामी गणपति जी महाराज का शिष्य हूँ और ये जो तुलसी मानस मंदिर है इसका मैं दीक्षित हूँ और काशी के जो विद्वानों की मंडली है श्री काशी विद्वत परिषद का मैं महामंत्री हूँ। उसके बाद शास्त्र को आधार मानने वाला होने के नाते मैं कट्टर हिंदू ब्राह्मण हूँ, छुआछूत जात पात मानता हूँ।
Just double click. Yeah. Yes, yes.
Could you switch off the lights at the front? It would be a big clear.
अब वो जब तक ऑनरेडी चपरासी रहेगा चपरासी ही रहेगा, वो जब तक घर पर शूद्र रहेगा शूद्र ही रहेगा, उसका परिवर्तन नहीं हो सकता है।
चाहे वो कितना भी पढ़े,
पढ़ ही नहीं सकता, उसको अधिकारी नहीं पढ़ेगा ही नहीं, पढ़ नहीं सकता, उसके समझ नहीं आ सकता है, विद्वान नहीं हो सकता है। अब देखो भाई सुनो, लड़ाई करा दोगे तो भारत स्वतंत्र हुए 58 साल हो गए, कितने वर्ष में कौन चमार का लड़का टाप हुआ अरबों खरबों रुपए उस पर खर्च किए गए।
The third one.
You want to read this one?
Yeah, I'll do it. Play now.
स्कूल जाती हो?
कौन सी जाति हो?
No, don't.
The last one, that's all over.
आपको जो है भारत का जो संविधान है उसके और हमारे जो वेद है उसके बीच में चुनना है आपको।
नहीं, हमको भारत संविधान हम नहीं सुनते, भारत संविधान को संविधान नहीं मानते। हम भारत का संविधान जो है अशास्त्रीय है, हम इस संविधान को हम अपनी दुर्गति मानते हैं। हमारा वेद आज्ञा है, शास्त्र आज्ञा है, उसको करो, उसमें बुरा भला सोचना तुमको राइट नहीं। हमारे
That's all. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Move the lights back at all, is this enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, in essence, I think you have understood, because the subtitle, best quickly for you. He says, God created the Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra and the universe based on karma of his previous births. God prescribed who should do what job, who should be having education, who should not have. Shudra will remain a Shudra even when he got educated. Shudra or a peon, a son, cannot become a judge. Shudra has no right to study. He cannot study. He cannot understand. He cannot be a wise man. Further, India got independence 60 years back. Millions of rupees spent on the Shudra education. Tell me which Chamar, which Dalit has become a scholar. I don't consider Indian constitution as mine. It is against the scriptures. Our Vedas and Shastras are the final order. Obey it. None has any right to judge it. I mean, that's what in essence he says. Now, this is not an individual priest, but this is the larger mindset of the populations. And there are exceptions. I know there are exceptions. There are extremely good so-called Brahmins who have laid down their lives to protect the interests of Dalits. There are cases. There are faculty members. But the large mind is on those lines. That's what it says. And where does this come from? Where is he quoting from? And you have a Manusmriti which says, if the Shudra intentionally listens or memorizes the Veda, then his ear should be filled with molten lead. If he utters the Veda, then his tongue should be cut off. If he has mastered the Veda, his body should be cut into pieces. And then Hinduism also talks about the Brahmacharya ashrama is considered a period of education in which Hindu is expected to engage himself in learning at the feet of the qualified teacher. But it is open only for the first three varnas. It is not open for the people at the bottom, which constitute 70% of the populations. Now, though this is what the Shastra says, the constitution, Indian constitution guarantees education. Indian constitution has given reservation. So under which everyone, irrespective of caste background, you can avail reservation and go to college and universities. I am one of those such person who made use of those options and come to the level of this kind. Due to shortage of time, and I don't want to go to my family background much more in detail, but coming directly to my college experience. I studied in American College, Madurai, which is a Protestant institution. And later on I did my master's from Loyola College, again a Catholic institutions. Because of my talent in music and kinds of things, I was always part of the choir. I was not a Christian, but because of my talent in music, I was part of the choir and I used to sing. And I knew what used to be the prayer, what was going on everything. So I fully got convinced, oh, God means he's a nice person. He will never discriminate anybody. Everybody can go to him. This is what God is. Because there was no orientation on religion because of my background. There was no text that every day I read. There was nothing of that kind. But my text reading began at the church. And that 4 years of my experience, those college days, convinced me that God is bad. He will not discriminate. He will not see whether you are upper caste or a middle caste or lower caste. He will not see. He does not have that eyes. So with that impression, I completed my graduation, went back to my village. That was in 1981. We are the sharecroppers. I mean, there are upper caste people who share their lands, and my father used to cultivate. And I am the first generation educated one. So there was one Karta Pandit, his name is. He is from a nearby my village, and he used to go to his Gurudevta temple. And every year almost, my father used to go with him. But this time my father said, no, why don't you go? So I don't know what my father did with him, but this year I was so enthusiastic. Okay, let me go and see what's happening in the temple. This temple called Konkaya temple, which is near Sivaganga, Manamadri, in southern part of India. So the family members have reached. They belong to the backward caste, upper caste relatively. I reached a bit late, and the woman comes and tells me first, Ramaiah, your caste people should not enter this temple. She wants me, before I enter, I was in my pant and a shoe. Your caste people cannot enter the temple. I asked, if I enter, what will happen? You will lose your vision. You may become a blind. This was the warning she gave. She is a woman. So I was shocked. I didn't know how to respond. He said, you will lose your vision. I don't want to lose my vision. And he said, this might happen. But was it ever happened? So many times it has happened. She told me. But then I said, all these years I was told that God is very nice. How you can take my vision? So I removed my shoe. I went near the temple. I am telling you, I was really scared because he scared me so much. I was really scared. I went to near temple. And I was thinking of Jesus, because you said I am equal to before God. So please take care of me. So I went going closer and closer, checking my eyes, what's happening to my eyes. But then I moved in, I entered, nothing happened. I touched, nothing happened, entered, nothing happened. Then I said, having entered, nothing happened, let me go and sit in a place where all those people who get possessed by the divine spirit. I went to that platform where only those who get the divine portion, only they can sit, others cannot sit. That's we call sanctorium. So I went and sat on that. I went and sat on only the people who get possessed divine, only they can sit. I went and sat there comfortably with fear, but nothing happened, so I think nothing will happen. And that woman saw me sitting there. How did you enter? I said, I entered, nothing happened, don't worry. So I came back. So this was my first experience as to how you are scared using your caste background. And that will have a very serious impact on an individual. This was my student days. My second revolt, when I went back, I mean the caste system is a very peculiar thing. When I went back, I am called a Dalit, but there are layers of Dalits. So I am an upper caste, lower caste Dalit, you can say. So when I went back to my village, I saw one old man coming with a slipper in hand. And it's very hot, but he was holding the chapel in hand. I said to him, it's so hot, why don't you wear it? No. I mean, he said, no, I can't wear here. To him, that I am an upper caste and this village is dominated by upper caste Dalits. Upper caste Dalits. So he was refusing. I said, no, you must wear it. I went and slipped like this chapel from his hand. You put on this chapel. And then there's a lot of hesitation. You put on chapel, you walked. By the time one elder man in my own village saw me, he started shouting at me. Because of you fellows, even rain is not coming. I mean, this is how your construction goes on those lines. If there is no rain, because you violated the caste. Who is saying one of the Dalits? That is the height of it. So caste is not some Brahmin is doing a backward. No, the entire system is a idiotic system. The entire caste system is so unethical, immoral. So everybody is abnormal in the caste. Then, as a Dalit, I had a chance to move into one of the best reputed institutions in southern India, Loyola College, Catholic institution. I got admission because I had a lot of extracurricular activity certificate. I got into social work. And there, in the first semester, I could not understand anything. Even that's one of very standard college. Even the peon was communicating in English. I could not understand because till graduation I studied everything in vernacular medium, Tamil language. So I couldn't follow anything. First semester exam was there and the teacher called that you have scored only 9 out of 100. That is what I could achieve. Even I was doubtful how I scored 9 because I could not understand anything. I wrote something whatever came like alphabets. He called me and there are 3 other people. I was not alone. I was so happy I was not alone. There are 3 more students. I said, what have you performed? I said, sir, this is my language problem. I could not understand anything. That teacher, I think teacher can play a positive role. That teacher told me, no, language is not a problem. It was a lie. He told me a lie. Language is not a problem. If you put little more effort, you will make it. And that helped me. I went back to my other friends and asked them, used to write my report. In social work, every week you have to go to the village and do some activities, come back and report writing. Through report writing, with the help of my friend, I began starting writing in English. And by the time 4th semester came, my score increased and I scored first class the 2 years. With nothing from 0, I reached to 60% mark when I passed my master's with the 56% mark because of the support given by the teachers. So the role of a teacher addressing some of the issues becomes very, very crucial. Now, I went to JNU, I had my own time, and then I got my first appointment at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, where my colleague Subeda is there. What is a few experience I like to?
No, it's
It's still okay. Thank you. Now we have caste is such a issue. So because I belong to the so-called scheduled caste, the students, especially the Bombay, the Maharashtra, many of the Dalit students are a follower of Ambedkar. So as a way of greeting, respect, so whenever you see another Dalit, you will say Jai Bhim. Jai Bhim means praise to Ambedkar, his contribution. So this is how you greet. Otherwise they may say Namaskar. So all these students from this background, knowing this is my teacher from my caste, so you will say Jai Bhim. Now how do I respond? If I say Jai Bhim, there are boys from other background. Am I discriminating them? So this was a dilemma all the time every to me. That was not my intention, never my intention. So ultimately I had to resolve it. If a student say Jai Bhim, I will say Jai Bhim. If the student say Namaskar, I will say Namaskar. Because I want to be neutral to the students. But these are some of the, if you are part of the system, that becomes a problem. Then guiding vernacular medium MPhil PhD students, again is a very frequent problem. Because these students come from a rural area like me. But they, because of quota, they get into admission. But then when it comes to writing, it is a big challenge. And obviously any teacher will take always the best students. So the worst students left behind. Unless there is a compulsion, they are left behind. So they come crying to me. So I got admission, but there is no taker. What can I do? So I used to say, you try everywhere, nobody takes, come back. So every time the people who come back to me are people who absolutely worse than me. That was the situation. So it is a struggle how to help such students. And because I can't avoid, others can avoid. Dalit teacher teaching Dalit issue is a more challenging issue. If a Brahmin teaches about Dalit issue, he becomes a revolutionary. If a Dalit teacher teaches, he becomes a casteist. So you are talking about your caste. If you are talking about your caste, obviously you will glorify about these things. So you are like that, you are biased. And I tell you, some of the things happen. The teacher, the students ask a question directly. Sir, I want your opinion on this. What is that? Most of the students from Dalit background get admission through quota. Most of the teachers from Dalit background become lecturer through quota. What is your opinion? Do you think it is right? He is asking me. Knowing well my background, knowing that I came through quota, he is asking me this question. Sir, do you think you are meritorious? He did not ask, do you think you are meritorious? But it's just that. How do you respond? It's a big pressure on a teacher. How do you handle it? So, I mean, every time I only rely on valid reasons and argument. I never say, yes, why did you say? No, I know, okay, no problem, good, let us argue it out. And every time I had sufficient data to put forward my case. And I tell you, though these students have, as part of the system, have their own bias, but many times they do listen to reasons, they do listen to data and change their opinion. And I want to share one such opinion, what happened one day in the class. There was a issue on globalizations. I was asked to, because I wrote a paper on globalization, and the position is Dalits to support globalization. This was the theme. And everybody is arguing why Dalits should support globalization. So I was specially invited to give a lecture there. And the students asked me, sir, it is more than 65 years, 70 years, the reservation policy, the affirmative action policy is in place. And that really does not allow meritorious upper caste students to enter, only Dalit students get into it. How do you justify this? How do I respond? How did I respond? I said, nobody in India went out of, everybody was covered under reservation. The general impression is only SC/STs have been covered under reservation. I argued everybody is protected under reservation. Indian upper caste elites have also been protected under reservation. Women have been protected under reservation. The youth has been protected under reservation. How? I'm saying how the upper caste elites protected under reservation. That was the question. The Indian industries, by and large, are from the upper caste. All the industrialists, by and large, from an upper caste or upper class background. Now, in my own assessment, I said, had the state not protected these industries after independence, if the state allowed the MNC to come at that time, most of the local upper caste industries would have collapsed. Because the government took a policy under foreign policy that henceforth no outside competition, no competition against our local industry from outside. So that was, I said, it is a protection. Why it was necessary? Because otherwise the Tatas and Birlas would not have grown. Even so, today why the Indian industry is crying against the MNC coming here, because they know they would collapse otherwise. So in 1950 the same issue was there. Do we allow the foreign companies to come? I said no. If they come, they will collapse. I am saying this is a reservation because you are not allowed to compete. So how do you say that you are meritorious there? I asked that question. If you are meritorious, you would have allowed the outside industry to compete. You said no, we will collapse, we will protect it. And when I made this statement, the students said, they got up, sir, I am sorry, there is a point with you. Yes. Then I asked him, do you think that the upper caste are also inefficient? I asked this question. If that is the case, he said, sir, I am sorry, I agree with you. So this younger generation, in my opinion, do listen to reasons. They are not completely caste biased as the relatively more elder ones. Then there one more incident I like to add. A female colleague of mine from a Dalit background, she was taking a session on caste and Dalit, on untouchability. After the class, one of the students, an upper caste student, comes and catches her hand like this. Madam, I have touched you. I am not practicing untouchability. Now, a student, a male student, coming and catching a hand of a female colleague, teacher, is never expected. You can shake hand, that's no issue. But saying that, see, I am touching you, I am not practicing untouchability, where does that courage comes from? Is it not a caste arrogance? How does a teacher react? So, it is not that you got into a reservation, you got to become a job and a teacher. How do you handle, how do you negotiate with your caste is a big challenge. And this is one case of that kind. The earlier case I am saying, after joining 91 as a faculty, I had one head of the department, a female lady, very, very torturous one. And Subhada also knows her very well. Everybody resigned and ran away. Having no other option, my fellowship got over, I had to stay there. And this is the 3rd or 4th month of my survival there as a teacher. I couldn't bear it, so I went to another colleague. Obviously, I went to another colleague from a Dalit background. He was the first one to enter Tata Institute. He said, she said, let us go to the director. Let us go to the provost. Like that, we went to the deputy director. He started few lines. He said, A.Ramaiah is facing harassment. In that process, he started narrating his own experience with his HOD, again another upper caste woman. And he started crying. So then I realized, my God, I did not come for this purpose. You are supposed to talk about my issue. You are sharing your issue and you are crying. The point is that he faced much more serious problems than myself. I am related more on. So it is so entrenched, caste. Now, when the issue comes, whether caste or gender. Now, when I see here, which is more serious one, I find caste is more serious. Being a man, I could not handle a woman. Is a very powerful woman. So, because she takes pride in harassing on caste basis. The direct utterances have happened. So how do you deal with this when there's a caste and gender? And then quick one theory Ambedkar wrote on this I want to share with you, that in India the discrimination against women is rooted in caste, and he points out 3 things. Practice like sati. Some of you may. Sati means when the husband dies, the woman should be thrown into it and she should die there. She should go run into the funeral pyre on her own and kill herself, and that is a sacrifice, devotion she has towards her husband. That is a nice wife, otherwise you are not a nice wife. That is one practice. Then forced widowhood. Once a husband died, the woman is supposed to remain a widow forever. You should clean off your head and you look ugly and you remain. The 3rd practice is child marriage, a girl child marriage. So sati, forced widowhood and girl child marriage, why were they in India? Why not in other countries? And Ambedkar's argument, there was a time the Kshatriyas went in, they are the warring caste. When they went to war, many people get killed, only the women remain widow, young women, most of them. So they had to find their partner, male partner, outside the caste, because within the caste everybody died. So they had to find a partner outside the caste. That was not allowed. So how do you deal with the surplus women they have in a particular caste? So they tried first, force her to be a widow, and let her not look attractive so that other men get attracted. So make her ugly. Ask her to cover her head, gungat, and then shave off her head and wear only one type of clothes. Remove all bangles. One point, she should not be attractive. Number 1. So that also did not work. Still there were women found partner outside. And so, and the worst come the last resort, burn them out. So the sati, the root cause of sati, they said it is caste. So it is only to protect the caste order, the violence against women become very prominent. Even today, if you see, those caste which follows these practices, the upper caste, and as you come down the ladder, Shudras and the Dalits, they don't follow all those things. You will find the men and the women at the lower order, they just crisscross. There is no much issue. So this is again a serious concern. This has not stopped with me. My children also face these discriminations. One day my daughter, 8th standard daughter, just going to a nearby school, asked me, Daddy, what caste do we belong? How to respond to such questions? She asked this question, what caste we belong? I asked, why are you asking this question? Why are you suddenly asking about caste here? Then my teacher asked everybody, those who have not applied for caste certificate, please get up. So I did not know which caste, so I had no idea about it. So, and then I asked, what did you say? I said general caste. She said, because there were some students sitting, some students got up. I said general caste. Then I said, yeah, you said we are general caste only, because you did not avail any benefits and you will not avail any benefits, so you are general caste only. She said, thank God. She said, thank God. I don't know. So something has already gone at the child of 8th standard. So there is so caste is not communicated even at the school level, various level it is getting communicated. The other occasion she asked, I was going in a car, she was sitting next to me, Daddy, one girl in my class, she behaved like a bungi. Bungi is the lowest caste who perform manual scavenging, those kind of jobs. She said, this girl behaved like a bungi. I just went to the other side, stopped the car. I said, what did you say? She got scared. You know what you mean by bungi? Then I explained that you are not supposed to say these things. These you are actually abusing. Other community abusing, you are also abusing. And I told her to make her conscious. I said to her, I am a bungi. Just to make her understand, if you are abusing means you are abusing me. Though we are not bungi, I told her, be sensitive. So these caste question confronts at every level. It does not leave so easily. So my parents' generation, my children's generation, it's also going on. In TISS, it's a different situation because again, TISS is also not just from the beginning, it's sensitive. At the SC Association, we filed a writ petition in the High Court twice to fill up the quota. Everything got changed at that time. One man who used an abusive caste language, there was atrocities case filed against him, he was arrested. Then only things started changing. It's not that everything happened just like that. You have to struggle, and that struggle was there. But today, Tata Institute, we have an excellent administration and a good director, I would say. Very sensitive to such issues. We don't face any such issues, and it is a better place and different place. But most of the other academic institutions, you will find number of Dalit students committing suicide. Actually, the next slides, it's not nothing is seen, so I can't show the data. About 71 students, and many of them from IITs, Indian Institute of Technologies, committed suicide, unable to face the caste harassment by the upper caste. So 71 students committing suicide from a reputed professional institutions. Because when there was a time, people say, once the education comes, people will change. And this education, IIT is the most professional, most highly educated people institution, and their harassment takes place and they commit suicide. So even the argument in the British Parliament, let us not go for a law. We will have more education. People will change. I know they will not change. If they are willing to change, then there should not be any problem for these things. When there is a law was demanded, there was so much of opposition in the Parliament. Why? If you think that you are not practicing, then you should not oppose it. Because you know you are practicing it, and you know you want to practice it. And the law can stop that, and you wanted to avoid that. So this is a clear politics. So even education does not help, rather it aggravates the situation here. But they are exposed to other ideologies, liberal ideologies, outside countries like UK and Europe, in America. Things have changed, better changed. And I tell you, caste is like a disease. It is a mental disease. And that is why I'm saying whether you can pathologize. Because I have cases where you see a Dalit boy or a girl, the person runs away from there. Because he seriously thinks that whole day is going to be ruined. Is it not a mental illness? I'm really asking. Somebody seeing another person running away, hoping that her whole day is going to be ruined, meaning it is a kind of a pathology. It is a kind of a delusion. So I think at the worst comes, one has to take seriously that this can become a mental illness over a period. I will not say mental illness, yeah, social pathology. One has to look at it, because when you say research questions, I feel these are also an important thing. So caste becomes a social pathology, in my opinion. There are already cases, and Dr. Sushruta, as somebody from psychiatric background, needs to look at seriously. There are cases, I can give evidence, number of evidences. You just see. I have a few questions, research question, I will stop it here. Why the upper caste behave the way they behave, despite higher education and economic security? I can understand when you are insecure, you may end up, doing something wrong. You are very rich, economically secured, still you have a problem. Why do you do that? So this is a research question, in my opinion, because see, all these years you have, many of you know, pedagogy of the oppressed. very famous book by Paulo Freire. In essence, what does it say? You have to mobilize the oppressed people. Only then you can solve the problem. I am putting the plate on the other side. You have to educate the oppressor. Even on the gender issue, I've been writing on this last 10 years. If you want to end violence against women, you have to educate the men. Women are anyway vulnerable, and that education, empowering them should go. But most important, you must educate the men who is responsible for committing violence. If there is a crack in a huge water dam, instead of sealing that crack, it stops, the water leakage stops. You start giving boat swimming training. That's what we are doing it. If there is a crack in a dam, water is gushing out, intelligent person will go and seal the crack and water stops. What we do, our academics, okay, I'll give you a swimming training for you. In case it breaks, how will you escape? I'll give you a boat. Our academics, we are engaged into that. So I strongly feel, whether it is caste or gender, we must see the source and work on it. So you focus on men to end violence against women. You focus on the upper caste to end caste violence against the lower caste. And that's and I tell you, it is becoming a pathology. We need to take seriously. Can the personality be reoriented in modern democratic values so that they refrain from resorting to such unacceptable behavior? You know what kind of a behavior it happens? You know what kind of a crime takes place in the rural area? Untouchability, I can understand. There were incidents where these people were forced to eat human excreta. There was a case in Tamil Nadu, near Madurai, a few years back. A man was forced to defecate, and he was forced to take that, and he was asked to eat. This has happened. This has happened. So I don't think a normal human being can resort to such things, and that is why I am saying it is going towards a pathology. We need to take it and those way. What academic contributions to be made to achieve these objectives, and how they can be used in a teaching learning process? What policy changes to be brought in by the state and institution of higher learning to achieve the above goals? If it is only such research focus can meaningfully contribute to end growing crimes against Dalits in general and Dalit students in particular. With the caste spreading across the globe, caste crime can become a global threat to humanity, as Dr. Ambedkar has already argued. Caste is a problem in UK, caste is a problem in America, because I had some invitation there a few years back. So it is becoming, as the caste moves across the globe, caste discrimination will also move. So we need to be better prepare ourselves how to handle this. And my one point message to you is focus on the source. Those who commit crimes, focus on them, educate them, civilize them, rather than saying that you have to empower Dalits, you have to empower women. That's fine, but you also have to see where the problem coming from. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor A.Ramaiah and Professor Shobhita, for narrating wonderful stories. And it sometimes, puzzles me. Are these stories real? Do you think these are real? Yes. And that's I think the strongest, message what we have is these are real, and then it happens. And then I'm here just to respond to both speakers, and then I would just, take a few minutes of your time. And people say that the recent research and people of high training and opinions are talking about caste disappearing in Indian society. People are proposing the ideas that in urban context and in universities there's no caste. It is all in the minds of the people. There's no caste. But having been in a university, having seen various machinations of academics and how caste is not seen or visible, it's in terms of the physical sense of untouchability, but how it is internalized, institutionalized is what I would talk about. It is reflected in the pedagogy and how the whole pedagogy is constructed on these ideas of caste system and patriarchal values. What happens to a Dalit student who comes into a university And then to what extent one has to be humiliated that one will push oneself to commit suicide. All of us at some point in time would have been discriminated. Don't you think so? But we're all alive. But what pushes somebody to commit suicide? What's the tipping point? What extent one is humiliated is, I think, I've seen a person who is from rural Tamil Nadu coming to a central university is one among this whole caste group to have achieved this status of, studying in a hard science department, and within 6 months of his studies, he was forced to commit suicide. So I think, when people talk about caste is vanishing, caste isn't there, I think people are reinventing themselves. And is it better? Or, sorry. Yeah, it's reinventing itself, and then it's always there. And what about gender? What, institutions like higher universities where women come in. There's a saying, there's a boys saying in the university where I studied. They say girl students come in their traditional dresses with a steel trunk box when they step into the university, and then they go out, they go in jeans, cut hair, and a briefcase. So what makes a woman after getting into the institutes of higher education? Are they really changed? Are they really empowered? And I doubt it, because largely universities of higher education are still patriarchal, and then that's how they actually, as Professor A.Ramaiah said, you should get into the peoples of the mind to understand the issues of perpetrators. I've been working with Shushil for my PhD, and while we discuss, these issues, it's always said that he talks about getting to the other person's mind, perpetrator's mind, to understand. I think that's the crux of it, whether you want to understand. And caste and patriarchy is still entrenched in institutions, and they really shape the pedagogy. And then I think it's high time that we really do some reflective practices, reflective thinking on how. It's not that people have not been thinking. There are some addressing caste issues, gender issues, but they're all very stigmatizing. They're still again dominated by these people who believe in a particular order, social order. And thanks for wonderful stories. And I still feel, as questions, I would see what makes a woman, what happens to a woman once she gets into the research higher education institute, and how society is still the same. How does she deal with herself, her family, and how she copes with her own new relationships, and then what's the perpetrator's mind. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much for very interesting papers presented by Shubeda and sorry, I can't pronounce it. Yeah. I think my paper is going to be quite general in two areas, but probably I'm going to use gender to sort of respond to some of the issues around caste as well. I think I was attracted by Subeda's title, The Personal is Political, Integrating Gender in Teaching Social Work. It is true that the personal is political. This has been articulated over 4 decades of feminism, and it can be seen as it's been played out in many aspects of social life. Of course, when we talk of personal being political, we are beginning to talk of social characteristics acquired or ascribed within the wider society. The most obvious one would include gender, class, race, caste, religious beliefs, ethnicity, and in fact, sexual orientation. On the latter, we saw how one's sexual orientation, which is personal, was in fact very political, especially in yesterday's court ruling on same-sex marriage in the USA. The issue for me is gender, And a good example of this is the one which makes the headline today, the ousting of the Australian Prime Minister. The consensus is that gender played a part in pushing her out of office. In academy, gender is still an issue. And studies have shown that gender or caste or class affects one's career trajectory. In the curricula of most disciplines, gender, caste, class are still very much in the classroom. As Shubeda has rightly shown in her presentation, the critical question is how one integrates these into teaching. How do we actually get our students, or me as a student, to take on board the issue around caste, class, my gender, and different sexual orientation? However, what is missing for me from Shubeda's presentation, or what is not clear, is the empirical studies. How is it one can bring empirical studies into the classroom? Not just the experience. We can use the experience of so many people, but how could we actually use those empirical studies to actually inform knowledge of students? The positive of using, having a focus on gender in the classroom can be an impact on students' learning. It's great. It brings gender awareness and gender sensitivity, so also class sensitivity. Because if you don't talk about it at all, people know but they don't know. If there is no seminar, within the seminar classes, if there is no discussion or issues around either gender or class, as in Britain, maybe not caste here, although it's happening, but even across, then people know but they don't know. And this happens across the board when we talk about diversity, when we talk about differences in ethnic groups, when we talk about blacks and white. What does it mean? And how do we try to work with these kind of issues? So if I want to take social work, which is not my specialty, I'm an intercultural psychotherapist. And my specialty is to work across culture. And how do I do that in my psychoanalytic training? And what is it that actually informs me as an intercultural psychotherapist? So I have two kinds of learning. The first learning is the Western modality of psychological thinking and understanding. And the other learning is the anthropological one, in which I learn about different cultures. I learn about the expression of illnesses, and I learn what people talk about when they say certain things. But above all, it's about respecting and taking on board what people bring. So I use a lot of difference. When I do my work, I acknowledge other people's difference. So whether you're a woman or a man, you are from whichever class you are, I think there is an important aspect of this about knowing and accepting the difference. Diversity is about difference and it's accepting it. So the cultural consultation service in itself is what is happening there. The case that Shubeda presents is, I would say, is a good example of using integrative learning approach to encourage students to learn across curricula and to make connection to various levels between a range of knowledge, values, and skills. Therefore, in integrating gender in social work, or any other disciplines for that matter, we should encourage students to reflect on how gender, social class, and their tolerance work along each other's as other disabilities, with race, religion, caste, ethnicity. How do we put this work together? How do we help our students to actually understand that these are not an exclusion of a particular group of people, and it works across culture? Even the UK culture is there, and the culture is not located actually in a particular person or in a particular social group. So in the UK, the anti-discriminatory and anti-oppression practices has been a core of social work in the past 3 decades. And actually there has been an attempt in the past 10 years within the UK government, of which I sat on the committee of working with diversity at the Department of Health, for clinicians to start taking on board the difference of patients that actually come to them and sit in front of them. Given that human rights and equality legislation emphasizes the range of grounds on which discrimination can occur, the question of whether gender or caste should be elevated above other forms of discrimination as opposed to considered alongside a range of other equally important factors is still debatable. Our challenge is managing the duality that on one hand, one must be ever aware of the risk of discrimination on the basis of identity, be it gender, be it race, be it religion, be it caste, sexuality, ethnicity, or disability. While on the other hand, realizing the risk of assuming that oppression can be attributed to just one part of a person's identity. Therefore, in integrating gender, or maybe caste, in social sciences discipline, it might be beneficial to bring theories of identity, individualization, and critical social policy to supplement teaching on anti-discriminatory and anti-oppressive practices. Students should be encouraged to find a comfort in the less certain but arguably more realistic contents that the nature, form, and experience of discrimination are influenced at so many different levels, and how it impacts on individuals and groups in such diverse ways. That any generalized thinking, including an overemphasis on gender or caste, can be to the detriment of other aspects of identity and experience. One must always be aware that this can be potentially discriminating. It is important for us, the acknowledgement of the work around gender. I work with male perpetrators of domestic violence, so one can say we have to teach them something. But we also have to take on board that if we place too much emphasis on one aspect of an issue, then we might be discriminating on another aspect. So it's about how we may both work together. Thank you.
Okay, I hope this works. First, I would like to thank our 2 distinguished guests and speakers this evening, Professor Maitra, Professor A.Ramaiah, if I pronounce it correct, for giving us a very insightful, compassionate description of 2 important issues which we are still facing today, embedded deeply in culture and history. It's an issue not just in the Indian society, as Professor Maria was saying, it actually exists generally in many cultures and humanity. I also like to praise 2 of our students who have responded very fittingly to the issues through their own study and current experience at UCL. I must say that these issues, today I am a student myself, because being a material scientist, even not a materialist in philosophical sense, I learned a lot through the discussions and the lectures offered by our speakers. To tell the truth, when I first saw CCS, when Caroline sent that to me, I said, okay, that's something I must join in, because I'm working on carbon capture and storage. Of course, being a scientist, I'm working on sort of issues of materials or matter, and this is very much has a lot to do with mind. This actually reminded me another the story when the students were asked, "What is mind?" They said, "No matter." When they were asked, "What is a matter?" There's never mind. I haven't really heard of that. Clearly, that's not the case. It's definitely not the case as happening around here and at UCL. And when UCL was founded, it's created on equality, and such a spirit has penetrated through the whole history of UCL. As my colleague was saying, UCL now focuses our minds trying to tackle very challenging issues, the grand challenges. And through grand challenges, we want to identify leadership, we want to use multidisciplinarity to create impact to society. And these two issues we are discussing today are no exception. We need a leadership in discussing, in analyzing such issues through multidisciplinary disciplinary approach to understand the roots of the issues, to understand their current influence of these issues, and hopefully to influence policy, and to create knowledge influence policy, and most importantly to create impact for the betterment of the society. And I think we have differences, as one of the students was saying, there are diversities. And as teachers in universities, a multicultural environment, we need to consider such differences in culture, differences in their gender, and their the realm of their mind. But through this understanding of these differences, I think minds are powerful and reasonable. I use the word reasonable. So through reason, by creating reason, I think we could fulfill our common goal. We could really build a far better future and a better educational environment, such as I'm sure UCL is an example. So I would like to thank all my colleagues, Caroline, for organizing such a nice event, and this is indeed a very good example of solving one of the grand challenges. It's a step forward, a big step forward. I would like to thank my colleagues here and guests for all your contributions to the evening, and of course to various for all the list of important questions. There's no answer at the moment. I hope by working together we'll find remedies, if not the ultimate answer, to achieve the common goal. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you, Caroline.
Okay, thank you. Is this one working? So can the panel members come and sit here, and we'll just have a few minutes of questions. And so all the panel speakers like to come here if you'd be formulating your questions for them.
Does it include speakers?
Yeah,
of
course. So just to recall then, if you'd like to ask a question, please wait for the microphone, state your name, perhaps tell us whether you're just making a comment or asking a question. And I think if we're ready. Professor Littlewood, perhaps you'd like to kick off.
I need the microphone.
Is there?
General comment in writing their responses. I was a bit disappointed by the research suggestions, which seem to be very moralistic. And there are no actual opportunities for us to look at this in some detail. Just take Yemi's point about the interreaction of different sorts of prejudice. I conducted my fieldwork in Trinidad in the Caribbean, where half the population, about 500,000 people, are of Indian origin. And then they arrived in the Caribbean starting from 100 years ago, 150 years ago. Castes, they're predominantly Hindus. The caste has totally disappeared among them, but they're still very sexist. Trait they share those of African origin in the same island. So how can caste disappear, prejudice against women continue? There's a case study which we will look at how they work together.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take a couple more questions then. The gentleman over here, that was.
My name is Rabi, and I have a question in connection with the college romance you outlined. What I wanted to ask was, in that situation, could you have suggested or ordered her to drop her boyfriend? That's what I'm getting at. Can you at any time order someone, a student, to drop the person he's chosen or she has chosen for whatever reason?
I am Sanjay Aparangli. I'm a master's student. I was a master's student at UCL studying human rights. It seems that the caste system is entrenched in Hinduism and the Hindu society. Can you realistically assume that it will go as long as Hinduism remains? Or is it so conjoined with Hinduism that as long as Hinduism remains in this world, the caste along with it will survive?
Okay, let's just take one more question before we, yes, just one more then. Okay, for now, yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Milin. Actually, I'd like to ask a question to the one who presented, Professor Shubhadi. Shubhada, sorry. So, actually in JNU and in Central University of Hyderabad, there was two incidents where one Dalit boy, patriarchal Dalit boy, was beaten by upper caste progressive women, girls. And when that incident happened, a lot of discussion had taken place in both teacher bodies and students' bodies, and the discussion was taking place on the complicating caste and gender on universities. When it goes to Dalit girls refused to make statement on this incident because of that boy was moving around with upper caste girls. So Dalit girls said that we will not make. So how to think about how to complicate these vulnerable categories in this situation?
Okay, so who in the panel would like to kick off? Shubhada, you've had a couple of questions. Would you like to go first?
Well, to respond to Robbie, well, you can never ask or order a student to stop seeing the person. Each one is an adult. They have their reasons for going around. They are perhaps, I would say that every one of us has a certain amount of agency, and you can never take away that agency from an individual. At the same time, what I would have liked to do is, and what I didn't, is to talk to her. Today, in general, when I address my students, I say this in the class, not on one-on-one, but I say, when you ever hear your boyfriend or anyone being possessive about you and trying to control your behavior, dressing, talking, movement, whatever, run for your life. Run as fast and far as you can. Because I think that's one of the first signs that, a person, how the person experiences power and how the person wants to control another human being. And we justify it on the basis of love, possessiveness, I love you so much, therefore I don't like you talking to, I don't like to share your time with. and we fall for it. Unfortunately, that doesn't end there. It continues. So I mean, I know on campus this girl did many things differently. She stopped wearing long earrings, she stopped wearing skirts, she used to tie up her hair, and yet the violence continued. So I mean, yes, surely I would like to talk to students and engage with them on a discussion. One of the things she said to me afterwards, I said, did you not realize this was violence? There was sexual violence before marriage also. And she said, but man, we don't talk about these issues. Who discusses these issues? So I think there is also a silence. Now, of course, it's breaking, but a silence around these issues that perpetuates the problem. So I believe in breaking the silence, but of course not. I don't believe I have so much power and control that I can change anyone's life decisions. And I don't want to. I don't think I have that.
How about, Ramaiah, would you like to answer the question, can caste go as long as Hinduism?
There are two questions, one from the gentleman. In some locations caste disappeared, you said, and he says whether caste will remain as long as Hinduism remains. I think I'll answer together. If caste disappeared, it's very nice, and that's what everyone wants, and maybe we must do a little research on how that disappeared from there. Is it caste really disappeared, or we have not been able to see whether caste remains or not? There are two questions. And for you, one quick indication to see whether caste exists or not is to see whether they are all intermarried or they have a division within that. Even India, even staunch Marxist, very follow on these lines, they don't intermarry. There are exceptions. So maybe that place you are locating, we must do a research on to see whether intermarriage is there or not, number one. Number two, the other one is, the caste is so entrenched in religion, whether it will go on. That is a debate between Gandhi and Ambedkar in the 30s. And when Ambedkar said, as long as there are Hindus, there will be upper caste and lower caste, and caste will never disappear. And Mahatma Gandhi said, how can a Christian negate Bible and be a Christian? How can Muslim be a Muslim negating Quran? How can a Hindu remain a Hindu negating caste? So that was an answer given by Gandhi very clearly, that if you are a Hindu, then caste becomes so fundamental, so crucial. But I don't think it is anything wrong. You can call yourself a Hindu, but still you can be away from casteism, meaning that you follow intermarriage. It's possible.
Isn't it considered good for you to practice Hinduism?
Yeah.
To be a good Hindu. So isn't a good Hindu equates to being a casteist person? Because according to the video you showed, the man believes that being a good Hindu means practicing casteism.
Absolutely.
So, for example, shouldn't the religion be blacklisted? Saying that
it's a Hindu non-caste sects. Brahmana and so on.
Because Hinduism is incompatible with human rights. I'm a student of human rights at UCL. And everything I've read about it is incompatible with it. So we should just, like the law in the UK has come up.
See, you have answered probably the given. You have answered, but even that is exactly Ambedkar said that within you can't be a non-casteist within Hinduism. And if you are a Hindu, definitely you belong to either this caste or that caste, some caste. So that is why he moved out of Hinduism to Buddhism, which follows only reasons and rationality, not any Superman's blessings. So I mean that is only for within. If you are a Hindu, then they will ask. I tell you, even to here, they will ask. If you say Hindu, that's not your identity. They will ask what caste you belong. You will not find a Hindu saying I'm a Hindu and he will stop it. He will be restless if you say Hindu. That's not an identity at all. Hindu means there is a caste. You have to say what is your surname, which place, and there are many people here who have experienced much more than me. He'll have a give live example. So to me, I agree with you. That's all.
Professor Ramaiah, sorry to interject, but may I ask if it's possible to make a distinction between caste and casteism?
I don't know whether I'll be able to do it because casteism is rooted in caste. So you can't have a casteism in the absence of caste. Probably you can say caste as a structure and casteism is a practice. That way we can distinguish. And I tell you, this is not to undermine, I'm repeating, this is not to undermine. There are few people, remarkable people. There are few women who broke the caste structure and married whomever they wanted. There are few men who broke the structure, who married whoever they wanted. There are leaders, there are bureaucrats who even died standing for the cause of Dalits. This is not, don't mistake me that it is an accusation against a particular caste. No. But as I said, in casteism nobody can be normal. You can be abnormal only. Because a Brahmin thinks in the village, he is no less than a god. And then if you take the other bottom of the caste structure, he thinks he is no more than an untouchable. You have these extremes. And you can never be objective and rational in your approach. You don't see a human being as human being. You'll always see a caste. So that's a danger. So within Hinduism, I don't know whether there is a solution. And that's what Ambedkar moved out of Hinduism. And Gandhi insisted, you remain there, people will change. We hope people will change.
To answer your question briefly, I believe caste, gender as caste and caste as gender. So, in that example where the Dalit boy was beaten up by upper caste women, you could look at that as caste and, upper caste women. Therefore, there is caste playing out, but there is also his caste as gender playing out. Because who has, issues of gender caste cannot be addressed in a vacuum. You have to look at power relations. And that is where your engagement begins. That whoever has the greater power becomes upper caste, upper gender, and in a patriarchal system, upper gender is the male gender, unfortunately. But
if I can just add to that, in case of power relations, as you're talking about, if it has to be compared between
sorry, can we use the microphone so we're capturing this? I think it's important.
If you can compare the power of an upper caste female and a lower caste man, it clearly says that upper caste female is much powerful in the power relations in the social structure comparing to a lower caste man.
Yes, absolutely. And therefore I talked about gender binaries. Also that gender is not one, or women, if we look at women and men, is not a homogeneous category. There are layers and layers, and within that you will see power differentials and hierarchies. It's not like, women is all powerless, men is all powerful, and you will always know. It's not that. There is a difference.
Just quick addition to that, maybe I will take up. Most of the violence, rape against women, almost you can say 70% of the women being raped in India from this particular so-called Dalit communities. And invariably, if you want to teach a lesson to a lower caste who go against caste structure, the first victim becomes the Dalit women. So there is a hierarchy among women. We can't say that all women as one category as gender issue. There is a hierarchy. There is a oppression at a different level. The exclusion, humiliation faced by Dalit women is far, far more severe than the upper caste women. And their issues are there. But definitely gender and women's oppression is a serious issue. But we also need to pay an attention that within that category, the Dalit women face the brunt of it.
And yet we know that women's bodies have been used as battlegrounds even across nations. So it's not just Dalit women being raped, I of course agree with you, but also across nations when there is war. Look at what happened in Congo. There is so much sexual violence, and again, women of color, who is violating women? So irrespective of where you are located in the social hierarchy, women's bodies always become battlegrounds for honor and power.
But I would like to say one thing in this, that in India, the 70% women are raped who are from the Dalit community. Then the women from the elite community or the higher caste do not stand by them. Absolutely. That is the difference in the international scenario and Indian scenario.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree.
Big difference.
Yeah.
So that has to be addressed in India. Why women do not stand up for them, the elite women or the high caste women.
Also, why don't you put emphasis on law?
Can you hold on, just hold for the
Mike, please, here.
Law and order
Hang on.
Take the mic, please. Yeah.
This has been going on ever since before the independence, after the independence. Nobody has put emphasis on the implementing law and order. And if you don't, this will go on for centuries. The moment you start, right from the primary education, no caste is inquired about where you come from, that will start to end the caste. Now you have countries like Mauritius, Bali, and also South America, Guyana. They don't have this problem. So why can't we take a hint from them?
My name is Nuria. This is a question addressed to Professor A.Ramaiah, and particularly on research questions. It seems like you have framed your research questions in a way that you were wondering why rationalism hasn't worked. First question, why do they behave in the way they do despite higher education, economic security? And then you're asking also whether they could be reoriented into modern democratic principles. I really admire your faith in that rationalism. At the same time, if you look at the Indian modernity project and rationalism and equality, it's all entrenched within the Brahminical hierarchy. So how do you negotiate rationalism within this, something that's extremely embedded with discrimination is not fundamentally flawed to some extent? So, yeah.
Okay, we have, I think we might have to be a little bit careful of our time, but we have a gentleman who's down here has been waiting for a little while, down there.
There's also a lady there on the second row.
Yeah, as well. Okay.
My name is Srinivasan. I have a question and also a comment. Like about this moving away from Hinduism to Christianity, Buddhism or Christianity. Do you see any result in your higher education institution? Is there any difference that makes? Why I ask this question is, there are some prominent Indian educational institutions. They are Christian institutions. They are mired in caste, and the struggles or the power struggles are wide open. It is even worse than Hindu communal or Hindu casteist war on the street. It is nothing very decent to say about it. So this is my question. And we have Professor Mose here, who studied about caste and Hindu caste and Christianity. What do you think about that in your teaching institutions? Is that really the converts or the Christians or for that matter other religions, do they behave anyway different from the mainstream in your schools where you teach or where you come across? Thank you.
It's a very difficult question. You see, the only difference, Hinduism, as the priest said clearly, that this is what we are, this is what we are supposed to do. So you don't think of change. Christianity as a text, as a religion, does not propagate caste. Christians do. Christianity does not, but Christians do. Because Christians are by and large Hindus, Hindu converts. So you have become a bishop, but you don't want to leave your software. So hardware gets changed, the software remains the same. So the deletion of software, caste software, is what something one need to work towards. See, I mean, that's what Ambedkar said. When you have vested interest in caste, again the same debate, education will change. Education will bring some change. If there is a vested interest, people who are supposed to change will not change. And that goes to my friend's earlier question. Reorienting. Reorienting is possible. Reorienting is possible provided they are ignorant about it. That is why I am saying it is somebody who is sleeping, you can just hit and you will get up and get up. But somebody is pretending to be sleeping. If you try to wake him up, he will snore more. He will never get up. I mean, today our reality is this. So there is complete unwillingness to change. Why you don't want to change? Because it is beneficial to you. Some illiterate person is being addressed like Pandit. So why should that person give up that options? And it is a serious, and that is why I am saying caste is a product of a wicked mind. I wrote that statement deliberately because it is a wicked mind statement. And it is designed in a particular way to keep the interests of certain communities at the cost of huge populations, even basic needs. So we only hope that reorientation can help. I tell you, it is possible. The men at the Tata Institute, when I joined 91, you will find most of them were women, the faculty colleagues.
Of course, which is what I said in the presentation.
Most of them, and I myself felt suffocated. Everywhere you turn, only so many Suvidas sitting around.
Yes, absolutely.
But then, when having lived in that situation for quite some time, your mind get reconditioned, reoriented. So probably my relationship, my approach to Subhada would have been different at that time. Now, having lived in Tata Institute, now I am very scared of her. So things can change. We only hope.
Lady at the back.
Hi, my name is Pooja Barandi. I'm in a criminal justice background, but casteism I really don't agree with, so that's why I'm here today. I'm so proud to be British born, especially in April because of the law that came into this country that says caste discrimination is outlawed. I felt really proud to be in this country at the time, and I'm happy that UCL have opened this debate today because you can only have this debate rationally outside of India. As everyone has said, it's so engrossed in the culture, it's so embedded in the society that you can't have this sort of open discussion, have quite direct questions asked to the panel and survive, really, because it's so entrenched in it. And I'm glad that the Western society has taken this on. This country has brought in this law very quickly and said, we don't want caste discrimination here. And hopefully, slowly, it will go to India and India will change for a better nation.
Thank you. Okay, the gentleman over the other side. Yes?
For me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm Shrikant Borkar. I'm a degree student from University of Sussex. First of all, I would like to thank UCL, Shushruth and Carol and all those who are behind this very unique project of UCL Cultural Consultation. And I think this is according to Action Research Applied Social Sciences, but then it is really very welcome and I congratulate all of you for that. My question is to both Shubhada and Professor A.Ramaiah. Recently there has been a breakthrough study in IDS which says that now the demography and location of global poor has been changed, has been moved from South Africa to India and Nigeria and Pakistan. So, and Professor David Moss, who is sitting here, who has done a lot of studies and he has nearly more than 30 years experience on Indian poverty and Indian poor and development issues. So social exclusion in India is directly related with caste. And recently even defeats policies, they have been designed on the same lines. So in the light of all these things, we talk about gender, which is of course a byproduct of caste, gender discrimination or caste discrimination. So on the line of all these things, in the light of all these things, I would like to ask Professor A.Ramaiah and Professor Mitra that how they are going to implement these ideas to this, and what are the possibilities that the similar kind of academic experiential project should be run in premier institute of social sciences like Tata School of Social Sciences. So what are the chances that similar project could be reproduced in Indian context, which is the, as per your experiences, which is the rabbit heaven of all these atrocities, caste-based atrocities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For the first time at the Tata Institute, irrespective of what master program one is admitted to, earlier we had the gender component, very much part of it, but this caste component was added later, that every student, irrespective of what program you have come for, has to sit through that class on caste, has to sit through that class on gender. Some of that's called, we call foundation courses. And we have introduced the Ambedkar's writing as the essential reading there. So that is probably a beginning we have made. And we have a very powerful system in place to address caste issues. A project of this kind, I fully agree with you, should become almost in every institutions, and I am sure we will work towards that. I welcome something of this kind.
Yeah, so TISS has a very, very active engagement, and almost every student gets inputs on understanding society, and that includes caste, class, gender, poverty, development paradigms, economics, all of those issues students are. So our objective is that each student from TISS gets out with, well, one can't have one perspective, but has engaged with perspectives and issues of these kind. The other is what I said in my PowerPoint presentation, that we do have mechanisms that address these issues, but we definitely need a service like a cultural consultation service that addresses not just cases, but this is what Sushruta and Caroline have also done, that they have run workshops and trainings with faculty. So everyone, like students go through foundation courses, everyone goes through a kind of an induction and gets oriented to all of these issues. Could be a short. Our director in his welcome address always says one thing. He says TISS has a zero tolerance policy towards any discrimination on all of these. While we have a zero tolerance policy, many of these and how they can be translated into action is not really spelled out. So what we feel is that, I definitely feel that a service like a cultural consultation service on campus, which is not a counseling center, which is not, problem redressal kind of a mechanism, but a general seamless mechanism where faculty, students interact and get oriented to all of these is definitely a possibility. And Raman, of course we belong to different schools, although he is a social work person by training, we will work towards something like this.
Okay, thank you. I'm aware that people have sat for 2 hours nearly without a comfort break, so I think we should have perhaps another 5 minutes of questions only, and then we will break and have the opportunity to catch up over a drink. So, gentleman at the back.
I have one question for Dr. Shapaya concerning the college romance. I was just wondering if the roles are reversed, and instead of the boy being the wrong number, the girl is the wrong number. Do you have cases like that? And if such cases come up, then how do you get out of it?
Yes, we have. Of course, we have seen, and I have seen in my 22 years of teaching experience at the institute that girls are also often wrong numbers. And there is pain. There is pain and trauma for the affected person, and one, no matter then what gender, it could be 2 boys, it could be 2 girls, and there have been, those kind of instances also. So I mean, one sees the interplay of characteristics in these kind of issues. That is also the point that I was making.
Thank you. I think we'll have the last question from Rod, and then I'll ask Dr. Jada to say a few words to summarise.
Actually, I hardly dare say it, but this isn't a question. It's a terribly brief comment on the UCL students who said that gender is not an issue at UCL. I am a member of the 50-50 gender equality group at UCL, and we started about 2 years ago, and we have a lot of work to do. We've discovered that there are very few women in the upper echelons of UCL, so we are working to try to get 50-50 gender equality throughout the college.
Thank you for that, and I was waiting to hear voices like these, because I did suspect, I mean, nothing good or bad, but it is seen everywhere, and I don't think we have transcended either caste or gender anywhere. Thank you.
It's not so much comment because Professor Tyler is going to say a few words at the end, but just reflecting on it, one issue that struck me throughout is that yes, we have such services in campuses. Yes, we unschool or deschool ourselves, we follow Elysian ideas of what we should do, but somehow when we leave the higher academia or universities and we re-enter mainstream society, something happens where there still is a disconnect. Because if we were doing what we are doing within this or within UCL, then what is it that happens that stops outside society from changing? And how do we make an impact on that? We have public engagement projects within universities to impact upon it. But the force perhaps of social institutions beyond higher academia are what perhaps is what perhaps we might need to take on board within higher education to address. Otherwise, activities such as the CCAs become ring fence and they can develop into some tokenism. So our job is to engage beyond higher academia with institutions outside of our universities. So just a comment when I was listening to the issues that you were raising and the desire to want to do something to raise these questions, because if we ask anyone who's in India, will you give up your caste? I don't need to answer that question. Perhaps the lower castes might say yes, very readily so. I'll become a Christian or a Buddhist anytime to avoid this. But it's very rare that I would find someone from an upper caste background who would say, I'm going to give up my caste. So it's just a comment.
Okay. Yes?
So can I have a comment? Yeah, that's a very good. Because UCL has been praised so often, I thought I'll just add a couple of things I think it is quite important for relations between UCL and, of course, India. I'm sure my colleague was going to say similar, sort of got her microphone first. Now, Mahatma Gandhi was mentioned in your talk. Of course, we are very proud that Gandhi studied at UCL. Studied law, actually. Mahatma Gandhi. And another, of course, distinguished scholar was Tagore. And I think both have made a very positive impact in the progresses of India. Although there are, I understand your total views, but of course Gandhi's played so much and so many important roles in different aspects in India. If I understand correctly, he's probably, although he has other views, but he's a person who ended the untouchability or sort of made a progress in that area, considering at the time it was a very difficult struggle for him. Okay. Yeah. And I guess that's what the point I'm making is that I'm pleased to see that so many other UCL students here and speak for UCL. I'm sure Indian society also needs people like the future Tagores and Gandhi to bring about further progress in India or in Indian society in general. Another point I want to it's a question and point is a question myself as well. Now, culture is embedded in history, it's very strong, it's very difficult to change. You can recognize your culture, even recognize the caste system. But we all live in the 21st century. We know what to practice, what not to. They are very good at, if we have we know, we are influenced by the current values of the day. We talk about values of human being, of human existence. Is it possible, is it possible to recognize that structure, the system as a structure, but could you, in your daily life, regard everybody as equal? This structure, another thing I'm not sure about the structure was the structure initially created for societal echelon, or was it created initially mainly to reflect what people do as a profession? I don't understand the details of the problem. Whether there were distortions in history, in the development of the culture that causes the situation of the current day. Again, that was no answer to this question.
Want me to quickly respond? Okay. Quick response. Yeah. There's one distinction, that's what he said. There is a division of labor and division of laborers. Division of labor is a universal thing, which everybody, but caste is division of laborers. That means you belong to a particular caste, whichever, whether you like, I want to become a professor, no, I should not. You are this caste, you remain there. So that is a distinction between division of labor and division of laborers. Division of labor is fine, but caste system is a division of laborers, not labor. So that's one. And then Mahatma Gandhi, in a way, glorified a particular caste doing a particular job. That a Bangi called. A scavenger should remain only a scavenger. He should not do anything else. So it is not a division of labor. So that way, by saying that there is nothing wrong in cleaning a toilet, nothing wrong you being a scavenger, he glorified that, and he himself started doing to tell that there is nothing wrong in doing it. Except Gandhi, nobody else from his caste did this. But unfortunately, the people of the lower caste, they have taken it seriously, they keep doing it. So that way you come to it.
I'm afraid we're going to have to call this to a close, but I'd just like to pass the microphone for a very few final words. I hope incidentally everyone's going to stay and have a drink with us afterwards. Final comments I'd like to pass over again to Professor Tyler. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to be extremely brief. I think a couple of words I'll just pick out of the various presentations and things. One, to my mind, is the word difference. And I'm reminded of a previous chemistry professor here, Professor Williamson in the 19th century, who celebrated difference, and he believed that society would progress by bringing the greatest differences together. And I think that the sort of discussion that we've had this evening is an example of trying to grapple with a culture in which that is something which could be a real challenge, but something which could be also a real opportunity. Another word, I think, we've been talking in the context of higher education. We are in a higher education institution, and I often wonder about this, because if I really had my way, I would remove the word teaching. It's a bit controversial in the university to do that, but I would. And we're a controversial university, and I'd replace it by the word learning. And I think that the difference between those two words is about power. And if I stand in front of a class and deliver and teach, I am exerting an influence and power over those students, which they may or may not receive. But if I'm actually sharing learning, they are becoming empowered to go forward and undertake the sort of thing that Sushrit was talking about earlier. That's actually how we change the world and make it a better place. So I think if we can bring those sort of two ideas, let's think about that, bringing differences together and emphasizing the sharing of learning. I think those are two ways in which we could actually grasp the sort of discussions that we've had this evening, which I found really fascinating, and actually step forward and make a difference in the world.
I hope you'll all join us for a drink outside, and because the waiters have been waiting patiently for no.
Thank you. I'm going to take the button down. Thank you. That was amazing.
Thank you. Professor A.Ramaiah, thank you very much.
Hope I did not mess up.
Thanks, A.Ramaiah.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. I keep on thinking we could do something. I keep on thinking we could do that.